They Live in the Trees by Master_Combination74 of Reddit. I've always loved the outdoors, whether it was hiking or camping. I've spent most of my life in the wilderness enjoying the scenery. Getting outside into the forest has been one of my favourite things, but something that happened to me last week changed everything. It was a cold February day and I'd just got home from work for the evening. I was very busy that week and hadn't had time to go outside, so naturally I was very antsy to go on a hike. Even though it was becoming darker outside by the minute, I decided to get in my car and head to the nearby forest. Now, I don't usually hike alone during the night, but I'd been very stressed out recently, and a nice relaxing hike on my own sounded perfect. Being outside has always been calming to me, but I never could have imagined what would happen to me next. Once I got to the trailhead, I pulled over to the side of the road and got out of my car. There were no other cars around, and it was dark enough so that the trees were barely visible. I grabbed my flashlight and my trusty knife from my car and closed the door. I then flicked on the flashlight and began walking down the trail. It was pitch black in the forest, and my flashlight pierced through the dark forest like a sword. I contemplated whether it was too late and if I should turn back, but I ultimately decided to keep moving forward. With my knife at my waist, I felt safe enough. I decided I would turn back in about a mile or two, so it wouldn't be too late when I got home. I'd been walking for a few minutes and was already feeling a bit paranoid because of how dark it was when I realised something strange. Everything was completely silent. It wasn't unusual for the forest to have less activity at night, but there was no sound whatsoever. It was like the whole forest was holding its breath and waiting. This only fueled my paranoia more, but I was determined to continue my hike. I was still enjoying the solitude and I wanted to stay out for a bit longer. I took in a deep breath of the crisp night air and started walking down the trail once more. Besides how silent it was, everything still seemed relatively normal, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. After walking for about 10 minutes, I heard a branch break above me. I shined my line up to see what had caused it when I saw a large figure quickly dart out of my view. I tried to follow it with the light, but it was too fast and I lost sight of it. I didn't wait for it to come back. I turned around and booked it back up the trail as fast as I could. That's when I heard what sounded like laughter coming from above me. It sounded malicious and ancient, like the thing was as old as the forest itself. Then I heard another laugh, then another, until the entire forest was filled with this horrifying laughing. As I was running, I shone my flashlight back up at the trees, and I really wish I hadn't. What I saw staring back shook me to my core. There were hundreds of these grotesque humanoid creatures looking down at me. They were large, about 8 feet tall, had sickly pale skin and dark emotionless eyes. They had long black nails that protruded out of their fingers, sharp, jagged teeth, and arms that were too long for their bodies. But, worst of all, their mouths were all twisted into a sadistic smile. It was like something out of a nightmare. I let out a shriek and started running faster, but this only made those sickos laugh louder. The sounds of laughing drowned out every other sound, every thought in my goddamn head. It was like they were enjoying my fear, enjoying my suffering. Then everything went quiet. The only sound I could hear was my heart beating out of my chest and my footsteps hitting the ground hard. I shone my light back up the trees and saw nothing. Not a single thing. The branches of the trees were completely empty. For a split second, I thought I was safe. I thought they had left me alone, until I heard something drop behind me. I spun my head around to see what it was and pointed my flashlight behind me. It was one of those things. I let out a scream and continued running forward when another one of them dropped in front of me. I stopped in my tracks, but before I could decide what to do, more started dropping all around me, until I was completely surrounded. There were about 12 of them in a circle around me. They were all just staring at me and smiling, not moving. At this point, I realised their eyes were black, pure black, and for what I saw, they never blinked. I was filled with complete terror. A few seconds passed with nothing happening, until one of them started to slowly walk towards me. I had no idea what to do at this point. Whatever move I made would not have a good outcome, so I decided to stay still. As it got closer to me, every part of my body screamed at me to run, but I had no choice but to wait. The creature stopped a few feet in front of me and continued to stare at me with that same ungodly smile on its face. That's when I realised the smell. This thing was one of the most putrid smelling things imaginable. It smelled like death rolled in a garbage dump sandwich with a bit of shit on the side. Needless to say, this thing did not smell good. I gagged at the smell, and the thing's smile only grew wilder. After a few moments, the creatures in the circle started clicking their nails together, making a rattling sound. Then, more of them started to make the sounds in the trees, until the only sound I could hear was that damn rattling. At this point, I broke down and started sobbing. I knew there was no hope left for me anymore. Then, I remembered the knife at my waist. I grabbed it and swung it as hard as I could at the monster. If I was going down, I was taking one of them with me. But before the knife made contact, the thing caught my arm with inhuman speed. It then squeezed my arm, and the knife fell out of my hand. I started struggling, but the thing's grip was too strong. It then threw me to the ground, face first, and pinned me. I started screaming, but the rattling drowned it out. I felt a sharp pain in my back as the creature dug its nails into me and started carving out bits of my skin. I was shrieking and crying because of the pain, but that horrendous thing kept clawing away at my skin for what felt like hours. I must have passed out because of the pain, because the next thing I remember is waking up next to my car. It was early morning and the sun was just peeking up over the trees. The birds were chirping, and it was the beginning of a nice, clear-skied day. I slowly got up, thinking it was all a dream for a second, until I felt a sharp pain on my back. I got into my car as carefully as I could and drove back to my house as quickly as possible. It's been almost a week since that happened. I tried going to the police, but they just laughed at me. For some reason, they can't see the wounds on my back, even though I can see them. All of my friends and family think I'm crazy, and I haven't been at work all week. Nobody will listen to my story, but maybe you all will. The cuts in my back are weird symbols that I don't recognise. I think they've marked me as a target, and I don't think I've seen the last of them. I can hear them laughing outside my window every night. It started as one singular laugh, but the number has increased every night, and they keep getting closer to my home. I don't think I'm going to make it. I've made this post to warn anyone smart enough to listen. Don't go into the woods at night alone. And remember, they live in the trees. This week's shoutouts go out to Daryl Fields, Anthony Martial, and Turan Namin. Thank you.